well as the audience? Or
Yep. You should see it now. We're live. Thank you for joining, everyone. Welcome to a new week. And just confirm our audience can actually stream live. Everybody should be seeing it as well. Is that right? Audience, can I get
Yes.
it? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, Digital World Town Hall Meeting. Today is February 11th, 2025, and we are focused on a Digital World Town Hall Meeting. We are joined by, pause this real fast. We're joined by a live audience as well as moderators. If you've got questions, concerns, thoughts, you can go ahead and direct questions there. Mm-hmm. We will be doing a quick report out based upon general happenings within the digital world over the last week, primarily around development and partnerships and collaborations. We're grateful for Wally, who's attending as a co-host. And this is a private membership association for those of you that need to be reminded of that. And some of the statements we may discuss might be forward-looking. We're primarily talking about what's happened within society over the years around secret combinations working together in cahoots to take over really governments and organizations that are both private and public, but using the power of issuance and creating funds to be able to control folks. And we really believe that decentralization is a true and correct principle that can help to be able to free humanity. So those are the things that we're deploying on and finding a fine balance where decentralized systems, some people call it blockchains, some people call it crypto, which is short for cryptography, but it's really finding that fine balance right in the middle that helps it so adoption can actually occur, not just in our lifetime, but for generations to come. It's all based around the individuals owning their own derived keys or their own private keys that then have derived keys that tie to them. Those derived keys is what makes the digital world unique and independent from other organizations or entities or technologies that are out there. Why? Because many decades ago, well, it's only been 15 years. So over a decade ago, we basically had the fortitude to focus on these derived keys, which then can actually use a hash to create something that artificial intelligence, machine learning cannot follow. That is a very big key that's a differentiator and unique to the digital world. Not only can you do it with derived keys, but you can also do it with contacts. And so one of the things that we're actually working on right now is being able to take derived keys hashed off of contacts and communicating with people so that all your data is secure. So folks can't say, for instance, there's certain organizations that basically track all data worldwide, everything, web searches down to emails, down to phone calls, and they meta tag it based upon data or heuristics, maybe a phone number, maybe an IP address, maybe a URL, etc. And then they can literally say, hey, we want to know when this person talked to this person and they said strawberries. And literally it's that granular. That data is real. But we believe that through bridging both the physical and digital worlds and how humanity actually works and operates, we can do it in a very responsible way that gives individuals their privacy, their right, that's a human right, the right to be able to transact and their right to be able to be sovereign and independent. Some of the things that are happening within society, again, it's February 11th. I believe personally, this isn't just about Trump being able to win a presidency and other individuals such as Elon and others going into financial systems and looking one department by the next, by the next, by the next. They're not just analyzing data around how things were spent, where they were spent, how much was it, but there's a lot that can be determined when you can log into banking systems and you put other tools and technologies that's enabled to log into it as well. How long have the accounts been available? How many transfers were there? What kind of transfers were they? You can analyze data in a very, very granular layer. And I truly believe that that's what's happening department by department. Why? Because eventually you'll actually have the requirement for if people want to get paid, like all they need to do is just shut off certain spigots. And then people have to actually go through a conforming process. And imagine if they had to actually get paid, they had to deploy a new type of bank account. Maybe it's a wallet. And then they could actually get funds that would be transferred in real time. So what I'm talking about is really how can information today be used in such a way for tomorrow to actually provide true transparency, not just around auditing or budgets or reports. But imagine a day when you don't need audits, you don't need budgets, you don't need reports because it's all transparent. It's there. But then there's programmable money that actually ties. It's been passed through. I don't know, and maybe someone on the live audience can actually help me. I don't know if what Trump's executive orders have done to undo the programmable money stuff that probably, I think it was 2023, February 2023. So about 2 years ago that Biden put into place, which basically means that if you have funds in an account, those funds, if you don't use them, you could lose them. Or if you don't do certain things, you can't buy certain things. Or if you don't do certain things and you want to travel to a certain jurisdiction, maybe a sector, maybe a state, maybe a county, maybe a country, maybe a province, you can't use it. So, or it can't transfer. That's what happens when you have centralized control over systems. And I'm not just talking about identity, but finance, assets, land management, you name it. It's really important for there to be an option and a choice to be able to have a decentralized alternative. Some of the things that are exciting and new of this last week is the ability for different types of funding to be able to be injected into not only the Clear companies, but any organization that wants to build within the digital world along with the Clear companies. So imagine being able to not only follow the compliance processes that are following regulations within the United States of America, namely under the Jobs Act, whether it's a Reg A or a Reg CF or a Reg D offering, but imagine the ability to have that same thing paralleled within the digital world and the physical world in such a way that you can actually truly have assets that transfer, and you can truly see if they transferred somewhere else without knowing who the individuals are, but you can actually provide a form of not governance, but bonuses or rewards for organizations or individuals that actually want to get into an environment. One of the things that we'll talk about today is primarily around a future exchange, an exchange that talks about currencies, equities, and commodities, where there's a back-end system. For those of you that are not aware, I'm just going to drop out of this real fast. I'm going to go into one of the countries that's actually one of the first ones. And that's the Hawaiian country. So Hawaii, let's go to this particular one. So Hawaii.country. We're going to go ahead and log in. So anyone with a QR code can actually, or anyone with a Life app can actually log in. And it can be Hawaiian Life, it can be Clear Life, it can be Digital Life, Vanuatu Life, any of them on Apple or Chrome or Clear. So you just scan it. 5-factor authentication, most secure system in the world. And there's a lot to that. But let's say that you log in, you can actually real time see your assets. And by the time, hopefully next week rolls around, you'll actually be able to see different wallets. So let's say you have, let's say you're an American and you're a Hawaiian, and you have an American wallet and a Hawaiian wallet. And in your American wallet, you have dollars. And in your Hawaiian wallet, you have dollars, like this asset right here. And let's say that you actually want to, let's say we want to go into it, we want to send, we want to receive, or you want to exchange. The ability to do this from one simple environment where you log into an interface like this, that is literally the future. And then you can see, you know, different transactions that have happened. But notice I'm all in one interface. I can actually see businesses that have been created. I can see assets that have been created. I can see and control, manage. You can say, I want 5 people that actually verify or can verify that future assets here can be created. Or maybe I have a dispute with someone else, or maybe I want to join a council. By the way, we'll talk a little bit about new council members here in the next couple of minutes. Or maybe you want to actually do something around the general things that you look for, permits or registrations or certificates within different jurisdictions that you choose to be a part of. Now, the important point there is you choose to be a part of it. So again, one interface, one jurisdiction, but there's lots of jurisdictions. For instance, in the Pacific Union, there are many. There's actually 2 that are actually in addition to these that are not added, but Mexico is one of them. But if all of these different jurisdictions have a similar system where they can create businesses and assets and actually share them in such a way that is unique, where the individual owns their own assets and identity. Imagine a future where the stuff that we're talking about over here doesn't have to be scary or concerning. Everything can be transparent. Everything can be public. But the obfuscation of the individual's identity and name is really what is different. So when we're talking about these different entities or organizations around funding, we look into the past around what's happened historically with Fund One, which started in 2009, about 78 million. It actually was up to 107 million at one time, had some things that fell out. But there's a solid IRR primarily from what's happening with a couple of the entities. If we look at other funds like namely the ones that we're focused on today, some of the exchange topics are what we were just showing you, but there's additional things that we will see starting to launch. And it's not just the funds within the Clear organizations or the teams or the companies, but specifically the ability to actually have third parties joining within it. So imagine, for instance, Clear Cellular, Parler, that could be True Social, that could be X, that could be Facebook, that could be a lot of different platforms that then layer on some of the things that we talked about last week with Candal and others, which, by the way, I hope some of the folks tune in today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But imagine different environments that can actually have their own projects and funding that are tied to this environment. So they have, in this particular one, is done under what's called a Regulation D or Reg D. And again, it's in the digital world first. So it's incorporated as a D Corp in the digital world, but you can actually follow the same rules and regulations within the United States of America under those same type of alignments, so to speak. So this is an example of, whether it's a Reg D or a Reg A or CF, you have a team, you have a market, you have some technologies or products. What's unique about this is actually a rewards process that also provides bonuses, primarily because you have the ability to actually see data. So for instance, you can see if a transaction goes from one wallet to another. You may not know whose wallet that is, but in a Reg D offering, you would be able to link them. So let's say that they were a contact of yours, or let's say that they were a customer. You could actually see and know who purchased or what they purchased or when they purchased or how they purchased. So those analytics are still there, but in the big context, they're actually private. So in the future, all of these different things, for instance, there's a gentleman that was over one of the main treasuries who had been there for decades and decades. When they came to actually audit it, he resigned. You got to wonder why. When you start digging into some of these things, a lot of people don't understand that there's so much more data around what we all call kind of data exhaust. When a purchase is made, where a purchase is made, what it's made from, how it's, there's so much details to it. And I'm just touching on a little bit of it. I'm not talking about how long the accounts have been opened, how many negative days, how many, and they can look at the actual types of transactions. They can see if it's a XYZ payment or ABC payment. So it's going to be very telling, not only how they limit spending or how they audit or how they hold responsible people accountable for responsibilities they should have had, but how they can actually link this to future systems. And when I'm saying future systems, I'm talking systems that can literally be transparent. And that's one of the reasons why when we look at what we call Clear, it's all about being public, open, honest about specific things. But there's other elements that only friends and close folks that are close to you would actually understand, know, and realize. And that's how we can operate within this digital world, so to speak. You be hidden in plain sight, if you will. Everyone can see it, but it's transparent. So with that being said, we're talking a little bit about Clear funds and how organizations can plug into them. If you haven't joined as a council member, so this is Digital World. We basically click on councils. You can come through and just click a button. Won't work for me because I've already done it. So you then scan a QR code. And so that will literally join anyone. Notice how there's just a name, so to speak. But the point that I'm driving at is today is a special day, primarily because some of the things that we're actually doing, and this is where you would actually get popped in when we talk about it, but one of the things we're actually doing is tied to an offering. So we're actually going through one of the first offerings. This first one is with an organization called Clear Cellular that's actually responsible for 2 services or products today. Clear Phone and Clear Cell. Clear Phone is a phone that is decentralized and obfuscates the individual's identity. It has 16 apps that are unique to it: contacts, calendar, messaging, phone, text, photos, email, all these different apps that synchronize off of your keys, but as a derived key. So if you lose your phone, you get another one, you plug your master private key in, you synchronize with your face or your finger. It's Apple if it's your face, it's Android if it's a finger, or vice versa. And then when I say vice versa, it's not that Apple's a finger and Android's a phone. It's or a face. It's you basically have, if you have Android, they're going to default to your finger, not your face. If you have Apple, it's going to default to your face. Sorry if I didn't make sense there. So basically, these products, namely phone and cell, actually become a part of this offering where you go in. I won't go through all the details, but you go in and you actually have, let's see if I can pull up this one. You have a specific offering that is tied to those particular assets. So these are literally services. So for instance, you can kind of see here, these are services and tokens that will be offered within a particular range. So a certain quantity, a certain authorization, issuization, and then valuation process that kind of ties through it. So Clear Cellular will be the first D corporation to go through a Reg D offering, and then others hopefully will follow, assuming that this is a positive experience. One of the things that's important is when you go through it, so I just went through 3 pieces of it. One is the actual kind of overview of what it is. 2 is a memorandum. So every Reg D has a memorandum and the details that are there. And then the third part of it is what's called a subscription agreement. And in the subscription agreement, folks can basically select a particular amount. What's unique about this offering is this is for accredited investors, which means they have about $1 million in liquid assets or above. But what's fun about this is we can actually, and we've actually started the process of development of this, is if people don't have that kind of funds, but they really want to be a part of this, they can actually just be a customer. It's not a unaccredited. You have to be accredited to be able to be associated to this. But if you want to just be a customer, you can still get some of the same benefits and features and functions that are tied to this. And so some of the things we'll talk about is the cell token and the phone token, and then how that actually works as a D corporation. And I'm actually going to show you some of, and one of the things I want to talk about right here, I'm going to read this to you as well.
8.10 Jurisdictional Clarity and Dispute Resolution. The subscriber acknowledges that this agreement is subject to the laws of the digital world in the state of Wyoming. Any disputes arising from this agreement shall be resolved through the Digital World Dispute Resolution System, as outlined at https://www.
So when you understand that, it's a combination of the digital world with a friendly environment as the state of Wyoming. There's 2 other jurisdictions we're currently working on. One is in the Middle East. I won't be specific at this point. And one is also in the state of Utah, because the state of Utah has picked up some similar type capabilities with what's called a decentralized autonomous organization. But what you're seeing or looking at is a subscription agreement that ties to 2 assets that will actually be given at a purchase process. This is a D Corp. So this is actually an incorporation document similar to a certificate of incorporation that you would get in any state or province. So you can see when it was generated. You can go into the details of what it is, any of the issuance, and you can actually check what's called a issuance. So this is a creation process with an issuer and a distributor to actually have a certain quantity of issued assets. So in this particular standpoint, it's not a coin, it's not a reward. What this is a token. And then there are actually rewards that can turn into coins after that. And we'll go through that in the next document. But you can see where it was actually created. You can also see if there's multi-signatures. So if there's multiple signers to be able to create or authorize more. So for instance, in this particular case, there's 1 billion that are authorized. There's 100 million that are actually issued, and the 75 million that will be raised, because it's actually $1 per coin. And this particular thing will break into 3 separate phases. So whether it's 5 million, 30 million, and 40 million, or 25 million, 25 million, 25 million. But it'll be over a 12-month period. And then if that is going to actually renew for another 12 months, there's actually folks that have to agree to it, multiple sign, and then more can be issued, and it's spelled out. And it'll continue to layer on top of this. So again, this is an interface that you're looking at, this the digital world. The one that I logged into was actually the Hawaiian Kingdom. Now notice they're using the same systems underneath them, but the ability to actually scale and grow is very, very, very duplicatable. So for instance, a business, a country, a county, a kingdom, a city, a community, another company that's doing similar things. So they can literally build on top of these environments and then pick the different types of services or systems that they want to deploy. Notice there's a lot here in the digital world, but in the Hawaiian Kingdom, there's only a couple. So that's a good example. So I'll jump back into this because there's a couple more screenshots I want to really run through. So this goes through use of proceeds. This goes through utility, how it's valuable, how it's not. But the real importance is understanding that this digital world and this D Corp in the digital world operates as though it were a digital business with a jurisdiction of being the whole world, the whole earth. So think about it. Think about the complexities that people go through to actually get a city business license, a state business license, and then a registration within a certain state. And then if you do business or you have offices and others, or you want to pay team members and others, you got to go and actually get a foreign entity set up. It's a nightmare. But imagine if you can actually go and start a business, a couple clicks, literally, it's super simple. Come in, say business, say add a business. This is what creates that unique identifier for those that have not seen this before. So you literally grab your Life app. You're going to scan with your Life app, not with a camera. And that scanning is what does 5-factor authentication to actually create this unique identity that actually obfuscates that relationship between this scan and that. But later on, I can go and prove it, so to speak. So you can create a different kind of business, and then you can actually validate within other jurisdictions real time. Some of these are just in the Pacific, but eventually it will go into other parts of the world. The Middle East, the Caribbean, Europe, there's lots of places that we're currently working on some. We'll talk about some in just a second, like Japan and Nahom in Saudi Arabia. But let's get back over to this document here. So this incorporation document is really important because it entails all of the assets. So as people start sending assets, these assets will actually show the transactions just like this flow shows within what's going on in the United States of America, different departments and governments, like literally the flow of how all this stuff plugs together. I hope lights are going on for people, because this isn't just sit around and say, hey, I wonder what kind of budgets they're going to be able to cut. Because I promise you, after this, the systems will go out in decentralized systems. Well, let me back up. The systems will go out in a blockchain-based system. The real question is, will it be decentralized? And that is what the digital world is here for, is to enable decentralization as a choice or an alternative for humanity. Literally, it is massively important. We may not realize it today, but hopefully in the near future, we come to understand the importance of it. And what we're looking at here is a closed loop system where you can start a business, do an offering, not get involved in all the crypto garbage. I think most of the stuff, literally 95% of anything with what they would call crypto or memes or NFTs, is all just frivolous jokes and or speculation and or fraud. I mean, it's literally just legalized gambling in addition to what the stock market's doing. I mean, the stock market's legalized gambling too. What we're looking at here is actually what we call a royalty or a loyalty program that ties to two incentives: rewards and bonuses. And they're super duper simple, but it's really important to understand this, because inside of other environments, they would do things called staking. You don't need any of that stuff in this environment. You literally can actually pay, for instance, in this case, there's going to be a token holder. Oops. So you've got a token holder. What just happened here? So you've got a token holder that has the phone, and then you've got a token holder that has the cell. And if you're holding these tokens, you can actually get paid 10% of total revenues. It might shift between 20% of net profits, but those are the directions that are basically going in. So these are assets that are real assets that actually provide real value continually based upon how the business is doing. That doesn't mean that you have to turn in the tokens to get paid. Once a year, you can actually get 10% of all revenues within that particular token class. And one thing that's important, the longer you hold it, you actually get these bonuses that you can actually then get additional monies on top of. And so when I say monies, I'm talking specifically about rewards. Those rewards then turn into, let's see if I've got a little explanation of it. The simple way to look at it is a token can get rewards that can then turn into a coin that can go liquid. So we'll spend a little bit more time on that in the future. But if we're talking about doing all of these crazy things that are all new, a D Corp, a Reg D in a digital world with an asset that's what's called on a permissionless chain. That means anyone can actually get a wallet. Anyone can create a transaction. Now, to actually be a part of this, again, you have to have accreditation. So you have to be an investor that has over $1 million in net value. But what if they don't? Can anybody just go and do this? To be able to actually get into these particular offerings, you really do need to. So with that being said, the digital world has a structure around some legislation, but we don't have the treasury behind it to actually back it up. And I'd like to take a step back and just do a real quick introduction to a new team member that is going to help frame out this new treasury. And I'd love to introduce him now. Oh, Richard, hey, you're on. By the way, I should go back and just say hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, Richard. It's good to see you. So Adam actually is from Aotearoa. For those of you that don't know where that is, it's in the country of New Zealand. We have people on here from Canada, from Australia, from the Middle East, as well as from multiple places within the United States. And Adam is one of the most recent. This is actually his first Digital World Town Hall meeting, but he is, in my opinion, the right human on this whole face of the earth to be able to take on the task to enable this treasury to be able to exist. Why? Historically, he's actually run, and he's one of the only individuals that I'm aware of that's actually run a treasury and done it for many years. So 25 years, he's actually run the treasury within Aotearoa or New Zealand. He also did some key things over in Australia. Not only is it foreign exchange or treasury type services, but also market making. So he understands liquidity, he understands risk, and I personally am grateful for the opportunity to be able to work with him. And Adam, if there's anything you want to review or say or just go over, now's the time. It's good. Did we lose you? There you are. We can't hear you. Oh, no. Adam, we can't hear you, buddy.
Coverage here a little bit here, Michael.
We got you now. We got you now, bud.
All right, how's that, Michael? Can you hear me better now?
We got you. We got you.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, so
would you introduce
happy
yourself?
to be here. Happy to help out.
Thank you for being here. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your history and a little bit more color than I just provided?
Sure thing.
Thank you. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not good. Sorry, folks.
Treasuries from scratch.
Can you
over about 30 years?
Adam, can you start over? Can you start over real fast?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yep. So have built 3 treasuries from scratch over the last 30 years, I guess you could say. First one was in Z, as Michael pointed out. Second one was in Australia, as Michael also pointed out. And the third one was on blockchain, native coin, not forked off anything else, literally its own jurisdiction, its own blockchain from scratch. That was the most recent one. The Australian one that I built and sold turned over north of 1 billion per annum. And I bridged currency between banks, governments, settlement, clearing, delivery, etc., market making, brokering, options, futures, various derivatives, spot forwards, etc. So been through a number of crises, and now the one that we're currently going through. So the treasuries that I owned have increased. So most liquidity of banks, etc., decrease. Governments tend to have like a minimum bar that you've got to meet, and banks in crises tend to go under that minimum requirement and need to get bailed out. I'll give you an example. In the GFC, my Australian Treasury went from 7 times the requirement to 13 times. So I have a reputation of crises. I guess we gear for those crises. We know they're coming, and we position ourselves so that myself and clients do much better during those times. So it's not a trading treasury as in the form of like gambling, like Michael said. We're not speculators. We're not anything like that. There's literally underlying flow, underlying assets in every respect to the treasury transactions. So that's the way I've always operated. So yeah, not a fund, not gambling, not playing the market or anything like that. Literally settlement, clearing, the delivery of banking transactions, import-export flow, underlying real assets and real flow. That pretty much sums it up.
I I don't know how all of this well, I do know how it all unfolds, but it's not of most of our doings. But we didn't find Adam. Adam found us. And through many different triangulations, there's massive, massive alignment. For instance, the core of the digital world is actually connected to a sovereign little island. Most may not know this. Richard, you might, because I think you served your mission down in New Zealand, if my memory is correct. And there is a little island that's sovereign. It's not connected to the crown. It's been sovereign from day one, primarily because it's an island that when the tide is low, you can walk out to, and it's a grave site. It's a massive little island that is 100% a grave site. And I didn't know how it all happened, but many years ago, well over a decade, longer than that, the folks that are actually there, a guy named Perry Kurhu and a gal named Marama Tarawa, along with some of the Tata family, they actually the families that a lot of their ancestors are buried there. And they gave us the right to connect the physical world and the digital world together. For those of you that don't remember, that is a core part of what this whole digital world is all about, is how both bridging the digital and physical worlds through decentralization as well as sustainability, primarily not forgetting about the importance of water and what it brings to this earth, the life that it brings to this earth. And so what's interesting is this gentleman, Adam, literally lives 18 minutes from this island. Like when you really start understanding, and it's like we've never met before, we've never talked before, but yet all of our paths have these common threads throughout life. It's not just, who we've met or who we've bumped into or what, but it's literally, I believe that, and just like Mr. Richard Dick, like the things that we've chosen to learn and do and study and suffer and overcome in life have enabled us to be able to add value in life in a certain way. And I really believe that when we go back to what's happening in society with these funds, the flow of funds, the information around the flow of funds, this is like a normal banking system flow. But when we actually analyze what's happening within the digital world and with these types of assets with a structure like what we're talking about, where an individual can get their own wallet without getting permission, they can hold their own accounts, they can verify their own ID, they can have their own data. That type of a relationship is literally, I believe, takes a massive amount of skill and effort and energy that comes from different parts of the world. Namely, I look at the identity systems and I look at what Richard Dick brings to it. We could have never understood the problem, let alone the question, let alone the answer that this man has dedicated his life to, or many others. And I believe that Adam has been prepared through trials and opportunities. And I don't know if he's been through trials, but I think the trials actually help us to suffer and to learn and to stretch and to grow and teach us lessons. But the point is I really believe that his skill set within the digital world now is so timely, because standing up a treasury that understands currencies, equities, and commodities, and being responsible with currencies, equities, and commodities that have real assets is what the world really needs. And I believe if we're able to have a core competency around some of the market making, the treasury skills, and other things that he brings, I really believe that the digital world can actually lead. I'm not saying that it's going to take over the world. That's not what it's about. It's enabling a decentralized choice within a digital framework where people can actually self-select to be a part of it. So with that being said, there are 3 documents that we would like to review. One of them is super short. A couple of them are a little bit longer, but it actually ties to how, and these are total draft documents, okay? These are not, by the way, if you have actually reviewed any of the others, these will be in the same file. They're actually already there. But we're going to quickly go through and actually read these documents, as like we'll have technology read it to us, so you can understand what they are, what the intents are, and then we can talk about it. We will actually be voting on these. Why? Because we can't start these decentralized Reg D offerings, whether it's the Clear Cellular organization or any others, without having the digital world understanding this treasury side of it, because we're actually going to be issuing treasury that'll tie to it. And that'll make sense here in the future. So let's go ahead and read this together.
A decentralized, AI-powered treasury system for the digital world that is autonomous yet guided by human councils to ensure transparency, efficiency, and economic stability. 1. Structure of the Digital World Treasury, DWT. The DWT will be a decentralized financial system that issues, manages, and oversees native, digital reserves, and real-world asset backing. It will function as a decentralized autonomous treasury, DAT, integrating AI for automation and human councils for oversight. A core components, AI-powered treasury system.
Now I want to make, and even let Adam pop in on this, AI is not going to run the treasury. It is going to help 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 key people that 24/7 will watch things, but it will help be able to automate tasks, but it will not be relinquished. So AI will help, but AI will not run. Does that make sense? I'll go ahead and keep reading. If you've got any feedback, go ahead and just blurt and we'll stop.
System aids, manages distribution and tracking of digital reserves, optimizes liquidity based on economic needs, monitors and reacts to financial risks in real time. Human-led treasury councils, HTC, the governance body ensures that AI does not operate unchecked, makes policy decisions based on economic and geopolitical realities, votes on major changes, ensuring human ethical oversight. Digital reserve asset management, DRAM, holds physical gold, silver, and other assets backing. Native, allows tokenized assets, gold-backed, energy-backed digital assets. AI ensures proper distribution and reserves to prevent inflation. Smart contract financial system, SCFS, automates financial transactions, tax structures, and lending mechanisms, ensures transparency in funding allocations and economic activities, allows global settlements without traditional banking intermediaries. Digital AI compliance and security unit, DAXU, AI-driven fraud detection, risk assessment, and policy enforcement, real-time auditing of treasury activities, interoperability with global financial and regulatory bodies. 2. AI and human governance balance. AI does not control finances without human intervention. Instead, AI handles automation, forecasting, and operations, while councils make strategic decisions. AI treasury operations. AI manages liquidity and ensures asset-backed stability. Real-time.
I want to make sure you really understood that. AI is not going to actually make decisions. Councils will. These different councils here actually have the opportunity to make decisions together and then provide policy that service providers will actually go out and implement. So some of the service providers may use artificial intelligence. Here's a list of some of them today. But they don't.
Skynet will have something to say about that.
Skynet. Hey, is that Charles? Charles. It's good to hear your voice. Boy, you sound like Darth Vader there for a second. Okay, back to it. Here we go. Let's jump back on this one. Here we go. Picking up where we left off. So I hope you understand the relationship between AI and human and councils. So everyone has a voice. Everyone can be involved. You know, this is the people that provide the authorization, not some king, not some president, not some ruler, not some prime minister. It is the people that have a voice with the councils that ask the questions, or, even create the voice, so to speak. And councils can create other councils, and councils can get rid of other councils. So it's how we can use technology through a simple scan to actually be able to voice our opinions. And it literally can do it anonymously as well, but can also do it cryptographically, so we know that it happened. I'm going to stop blabbing and let this read. Here we go.
Algorithmic auditing prevents manipulation. Machine learning predicts economic downturns and inflationary risks. Automated loan and credit issuance using decentralized reputation scoring. Be human treasury councils. HTC oversight. Elected councils from economists, finance experts, developers, and stakeholders. Override ability in case of AI errors, economic crises, or external threats. Policy setting for monetary issuance, asset allocation, and economic strategies. Voting mechanisms using quadratic voting plus state governance.
Now, these things that are highlighted is what I believe Adam has massive expertise and skills within. And we're so blessed to be able to have him be involved and guiding us through this process. So massive, massive value there.
Tokens. 3. Digital world treasury economic model. A asset-backed digital economy. Native issuances. Always backed by real assets. Gold, silver, energy credits, etc. Dynamic asset weighting adjusts reserves based on supply and demand. Transparent. On-chain proof of reserves visible to all users. BAI optimized monetary policy. No inflationary fiat mechanisms. All issuance tied to economic productivity. AI dynamically adjusts interest rates based on real-time data. Treasury staking programs allow for liquidity injection without dilution. See digital lending and fiscal management. Decentralized lending based on reputation scores. Clear credit. AI managed credit pools prevent bad debt accumulation. Dynamic treasury taxation ensures funding without overtaxing users. 4. Treasury decision-making process. 5. Implementation roadmap. Phase 1. AI-enhanced digital reserve system. Develop AI-powered liquidity management tools. Establish an asset-backed issuance framework for native. Launch pilot treasury governance council. Phase 2. Decentralized treasury and lending. Implement reputation-based lending. Clear credit. Deploy AI-driven economic forecasting models. Create tokenized physical reserves. Gold, energy, etc. Phase 3. Fully integrated AI-governed treasury. Enable AI-driven economic adjustments. Expand human council oversight for emergency interventions. Integrate with global finance systems for seamless adoption. 6. Advantages of the digital world treasury. Check mark. AI efficiency plus human oversight ensures fair, corruption-resistant financial management. Check mark. Eliminates inflationary fiat cycles, ensuring true asset-backed economy. Check mark. Decentralized governance prevents monopolization by banks or governments. Check mark. Real-time adaptability to global economic shifts. Check mark. Transparent and auditable financial operations. Conclusion. The digital world treasury will redefine global finance by merging AI efficiency with human ethics and decentralized oversight. It ensures fair, transparent, and stable economic management while eliminating the inefficiencies of traditional banking systems.
Here's what's neat is AI can even write that kind of stuff, but where do they get the constructs to be able to understand the intent and purpose? And I'd have to go back over to this declaration. The importance of by the way, this was started by a gentleman named Conrad, and it was not written by AI. When you link in real world purpose and structure with direction like what this does, it can help guide artificial intelligence to a point as long as we are aligned with it and continue to monitor it, so to speak. So I want to make sure that you understand that. So this first document, does anybody have any questions? This is not a voting right now. This is a draft document. They will go into this area and people can actually read. So these are other legislative documents. So you can see what's already been pushed through. You can see what's up for review. And I'll jump into, let's see. Oh, that's the patent stuff, trademark stuff, and then the decentralized autonomous organization. So any questions or thoughts or feedback on anything that we've reviewed so far before we move to the next one?
I have a question for you.
Go for it, Charles.
As we talk about the AI, part of the challenge for AI period is there's many versions of that coming out, but also the energy requirements for it. I was listening to Glenn Beck talk about this, where you'll basically need server farms with next to nuclear plants to be able to handle all the details of AI. What's your thoughts on that?
Everything gets faster and cheaper and more readily available. Energy is abundantly available to all of us. We're just not leveraging it. We think we need these power cables and above ground or below ground. We think we need to burn oil. We think we need to burn coal. We think we need to burn diesel. It's just ridiculous. But that's a different conversation, hopefully one that we have in the next couple of years. But I really believe that power or energy is abundant everywhere. Ambient energy is real. What Tesla saw years ago is very, very real. Energy is actually the real value exchange. It's not gold, it's not silver, it's energy. And it's free and it's abundant. And when we start realizing that and we start building systems around it, I think we can, and that ties to some of the sustainability stuff. When we look at some of the stuff that we're focused on here, sustainability is a big part of it, to your point. And I believe that communities can actually build environments that are not only sustainable in how they're built and assembled, but they're healthy for the human. Imagine living in a facility and actually feeling better and getting healthier versus, we leave the sun, which I believe has massive health properties. Like, we can't live without it. I personally love the sun. It's not that we just go get burnt and all the other stuff. But the point that I'm trying to drive at is there's technologies that always get faster and cheaper. So look at like DeepSeek. That's the Chinese version of it. Supposedly, they're running off chips that are much less GPU, CPU, and APU centric, and they use less power and they compute much faster and they can do it at a quarter of the price. Even though that, you had Elon Musk that offered through a counterparty $97 billion to purchase OpenAI. And I'll bet you, he gave him $50 million when they first started to actually get to where they're at. And I don't know what kind of ownership he got there, but it was supposed to be open source, which those that may be joining us knew. The digital world and all clear companies work off of open source technologies, whether they're operating systems for humanity, operating systems for a chain, operating systems for an access device like a phone, ClearOS Mobile, or an operating system for the server environment, ClearOS Server. Open source, I believe, it helps people to create better products and innovate better. And it's only a matter of time until they figure out how to drive out the costs of heat and power and consumption. And I personally don't believe it's that big a deal. For them to charge a couple $100 a month, is it justifiable? Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why a business like that's worth 97 billion or whatever it is. And the other side of it is when you really look at what's happening underneath, you have monsters like right outside your door, Charles. You go look across the ocean off of Lanai or Lahaina, and you look at Lanai, the guy that basically theoretically owns that, I know darn well he doesn't, but Larry Ellertson, along with some folks from SoftBank out of Japan, came together with OpenAI and supposedly invested $500 billion, which is one of the largest investments I've ever seen. Elon's questioning that as well, but into a system that's basically building the counterbalance of what the digital world is all about. The individual should own their own identity, their own data, everything about them, whether it's health related, whether it's, certificates, whether it's permits, registrations, who they are, where they go, what they do, who they're everything. They should own their own data. That should not be public. And the right to be private is a human right. The right to transact is a human right. The right to travel is a human right. But right across the bay from you there, Charles, literally, and there's another topic we need to bring up too after the call, some action stuff. But basically, I'm not worried about that side of it. When I say I'm not worried about the power side of it, what I'm worried about is the secret combinations thinking that they can create some new vaccine, some new mRNA technology that is technology. It's not the God-given gift of these bodies. Whether you want to call your God Elohim or Muhammad or any other term, we have a creator that intelligently designed the things that we get to have these spirits housed inside of. And I'm convinced that what they're doing is absolutely something that will hurt generations in the future. Today, my third oldest son is going off on a 2-year adventure, so to speak. I won't go into the details of what that is, but to do that, he had to have, for the first time in his life, a needle go into him. He's never had one vaccination, never had one blood draw, but they had to go and draw blood. And it was interesting to just understand there's so much to how our bodies work. Yes, can we create needles? Yes. But there's a sacredness that actually comes within who we are and how we create future generations through who we are. And what they're doing, it's not a power issue, it's a control issue that we should all be very, very concerned about. And hopefully we can get a lot more mature, a lot faster. And before these guys roll out these data centers with these centralized systems and databases, by the way, Oracle, which is Larry Ellertson's company, which, by the way, Oracle forked Red Hat Enterprise Linux just like ClearCenter did to create ClearOS Server. We've been in the same industry for a very long time. Same thing competing with Bill Gates. I mean, most people don't understand this, but when you look at Bill Gates, what he's all about, and when you look at Larry Ellertson, these guys are all closed source folks that are all about money. And in my opinion, it's the opposite. How can we have open source technologies that we can hand to future generations? Even on this call, there's an individual, not only Adam, but there's other individuals that will be joining the ranks and the teams to be able to create technology for their generations and then future generations. It's really important for that technology to be open and for all. So I know I've gone around in circles with that answer, but Charles, did that answer your question? Any other questions?
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Topics before we move on?
Hey, Michael, I just got a suggestion.
Yeah.
If we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, perhaps we should create a dedicated council throughout the ecosystems for AI. Instead of like the Digital World Technology Council, maybe we should just either implement a new one that's just dedicated to AI.
Brilliant idea. Totally agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to help lead it and guide it?
Sure.
I know there'll be others that would love to join you, but that's a really good recommendation. When we were creating the councils, artificial intelligence wasn't taken serious. We knew that it was coming. We called it machine learning, carded it into artificial, but we didn't know that it would come this fast. I think AI has taken off at levels that are just exciting on one hand. On the other hand, they're very concerning. Why? You know, earlier today, I was looking at robots that you can buy for like 12 grand and 16 grand, not from Elon and from others, but you can literally buy them straight off. Well, I won't even get into the details, but I'll bring that up in the future. But the point is yes, AI council, 100% agree. Yeah, totally. So we'll go through the steps to start that. One of the other things I'd love to do is implement some of the technology that the Hawaiian Kingdom has in the digital world. It's much more advanced than the digital world, where you can create councils and then the councils can have meetings and they're all electronic. And then the meetings can have schedules or agendas. The agendas can have documents that everyone can link to and see, and presenters and timeframes, and then voting real time. And then, you know, like when I do some of the Hawaiian Council meetings, it's much more productive than even the digital world, which is crazy. But I would look forward to the day when that happens, because it would be easy to just implement those councils real time on the fly. Right now, we've got to go, and it's a manual process, but great recommendation. Other thoughts or comments or feedback or criticism? There is no negative thing that you can say. Actually, hard conversations and negative topics are always good and welcome. Thoughts?
Michael, my question is the web link for the digital world. Is there a new link? Because I still go to the old website when I go in.
You're talking about this online meeting that we're in right now?
No. Just to gain access to the digital world.
No, it's all the same. There's no there. It's consistent. It's been the same for 7-8 years.
But the page that you show and what I see when I log in is different.
When you actually scan a QR code and log in?
Correct.
Well, you won't have some of the things that I have. You should be able to create a business. You should be able to do some basic things. You know, if you want to go through a marriage, or you should have some basic stuff over here. If not, send me a screenshot and I'll help get you the right people, or send Wally a screenshot. But it's good to see you. I'm glad that you're on. I missed you.
Yes. I've been in the background. I've been here.
Awesome. Well, other thoughts or questions or comments or criticism or?
I just have one question about slide 15, Michael.
Okay. Let's go to slide 15.
You said that this would be something that we could request the data for. Correct? Is that correct? We could request to say I wanted to see the expenses for a food program that was donating food.
Yeah.
And then I could request that data, but do they still have to approve to share that back to me if I want to see it?
No, I believe that in the future digital world, as well as some of the systems that will use blockchain technologies, everything will be transparent. So for instance, there's really no reason why humanity should ever be hungry. Like the first organization that they're auditing is around aid, US aid. And the worst thing that you want to have, and it's sad that this is the case, but there's societal parts that are reliant on others to actually feed them. And I think it's like we learn in certain books, through the sweat of our brow we'll suffer and grow and learn. But let's say there are people starving. I think we can all agree that that's one area where it shouldn't be about money. We're here on earth with God-given gifts of food that it grows abundant. And I'm not talking about Frito-Lay food. I'm talking about food that's just from trees and natural things. But the ability for us to organize ourselves or even provide resources to others that can be sent. Today, it's like, I can't even tell you, for instance, there's the thing called Malawi's Pizza. Every time you buy a pizza, they provide a meal. But how can they prove that? In this type of environment, you can actually prove it. So let's say that, there was a challenge put out. For instance, I believe by a fraction of the money that can actually be saved within the US budget, we could truly feed every human on earth. And I shouldn't use that word every, because it's a broad reaching term, but people should not be hungry, and we should be able to prove that all have been fed, so to speak. So for instance, with blockchain, you can actually see if a pump actually pumps water in an area that they needed it. You can see it from a GPS standpoint. You can see it from a flow standpoint. Today, there's lots of monies that have gone in to provide clean water to certain jurisdictions of the world. But how much of each dollar that is actually donated or spent actually really gets there? And are the wells really dug? Is the water really flowing? And I really believe that through technology, we can not only measure things, because what you measure, you improve, but we can provide transparency around those things. So for instance, yes, if someone creates a digital asset, I'll try and find one just on the fly here. So let's go ahead and go into organizations. I'm gonna try and find one that's sent around. Let's say BitChute. I don't know if this was actually, that's not the right environment. I'm gonna come up to their, so this is a public page here. And if you can, this is what the public would be able to see. So no one has to log into this, but you can see a transaction right here. And if you click on it, you can actually see what other wallet this transaction, or what other assets this individual already has in their environment. So you can see that they've got some papayas, they've got some Hawaiian dollars, they've got some Marriott reward points, and that's about it. So there's a lot of different assets. They're kind of sporadic. And then you can even dig into, well, where did they come from? And that type of data is what I'm talking about, can actually look just like this, but in a very simple view. Now, I believe that they're using the existing banking system and technology layered over it to create this type of a mapping. But with blockchain, you can actually prove it at a level that the current banking systems just don't even have. And that's also one of the benefits around this type of a system. So we've got this particular, offering per se. And one of the benefits of this is this loyalty program where you can actually give rewards and bonuses based upon someone just holding an asset and not shipping it. So you can actually just write a quick rule that says, hey, anybody that's held this asset for this period of time, send them this. So it's the opposite of what other chains have done with staking. It's around basically providing transparency, but if they do certain things or don't do things, they basically get a benefit or an advantage. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, we'll keep going then. There's also a framework for assets and tokenization. This is a very simple framework. I'll go ahead and read that real quick.
Digital world ecosystem, token, reward, and coin framework. 1. Tokens digital equities backed by real assets and a share of annual sales. Each token is linked to a specific asset, e.g., homes, autos, drones. Holders receive a portion of the revenue generated from related eligible product sales. 2. Rewards earned by holding tokens. Rewards can be converted into coins, e.g., native, clear, DUSD. Bonus rewards increase with longer token holding, incentivizing loyalty. 3.
Now, I want to make sure you understood this first one. This is very different than anything in any crypto environment. Most crypto assets are always ridiculed by saying there's no real value to it. What we're articulating here is in this environment, and we're not saying that everything in the digital world fits this type of a class, but if they're an asset that actually can do these types of things, we believe that they're an asset that can actually be listed in the new digital world exchange, which a lot of you will get exposure to here shortly. But that new exchange, which you can also do as you log in, you can see an exchange right here. So if I come over to the wallet and I click on this exchange button, I can actually swap certain assets for certain assets in real time with no centralized system, with no fees, with no tax, with no delays, with no government, with no bank. This is very, very powerful. When you layer this with a lot of other assets, we're talking about freedoms that we haven't even begun to understand. So with that being said, this particular environment here where equities, whether it's ownership in the business or ownership in patents or ownership in trademarks or ownership in real estate or ownership in inventory or ownership in even a warehouse that builds certain things, like there's value in some of these factories with robotics and such. Those types of things can actually provide value when it comes to tokenization. The reward side of it can actually magnify the value and then create a linkage to what we call an off-ramp or digital US dollars, similar to, what the world would call Tether or or even Circle, which is USDC or USDT. Those are assets that basically tie into the current fiat systems. The fiat systems don't have these types of things to them. People can, yes, invest in a company and get shares or membership and ownership, but that doesn't mean that they get revenues. That doesn't mean they get rewards. So we'll go ahead and read the rest of this.
3. Coins, stable, commodity-backed, assets, backed by tangible assets such as silver, gold, and other commodities. Coins can be exchanged into fiat or digital currencies, e.g., USD via DUSD. How the system works. Tokens marked with rewards eligible can generate rewards based on revenue from asset sales. Rewards can be converted into coins, providing real, tangible value. Coins are exchangeable for fiat or digital currencies, ensuring liquidity. Bonus rewards encourage long-term token holding, increasing benefits over time. Key benefits. This framework ensures real asset backing. Every reward-eligible token and coin is tied to tangible, valuable assets. Revenue sharing. Token holders benefit directly from related eligible product sales. Liquidity. Coins provide flexibility, allowing conversion into fiat or digital currencies. By combining asset backing, revenue sharing, and liquidity, the digital world ecosystem creates valuable and functional digital assets.
Now, there's a lot more details to this, but that's a high level simple overview of the whole framework. So tokens, rewards to coins, that process. And then there's different ones. So I'll give you some examples. So these are some tokens, or actually right here. These are coins right here. Just some initial ones. These are tokens right here. And then whether they have one company that has multiple assets or, those things are all to be determined. And there's optics that tie into them. So again, this is a document that's called the Digital World Financial Assets and Tokenization Act, which is a framework. This is actually one that talks about AI. And I would propose, since there was a recommendation around a council be created for AI, I would propose that we actually create that council, and then that council goes through this document before we submit it for review. So there's a lot of good value here, but we won't review this just today. And that's another thing that's valuable, is creating the agendas for council meetings that have different people that report out. Once we get that technology built in, by the way, Wally, if you could task me to task Mohan with basically enabling the digital world the same things that the Hawaiian Kingdom has, or the Kingdom of Hawaii, that would be valuable. One of the other things that we had accomplished this last week, let's see if they're on the call. No, but we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the folks that were on the call last week. We entered into a term sheet to help enable them to be able to build not only in the digital world, but for future generations. Huge value. And we'll talk a little bit about that when they're on. There's also the Clear token, which was actually originated in Singapore on February 6th, 2018. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how that token transitions into a coin. This is another thing that's important to see. This is actually an Explorer. So to your question that was raised earlier, Becca, this is an example of how digital assets, you'll be able to click into them and actually start learning and understanding what they are, how they're acting, how they're transacting. And a lot of this is going to come from some of the work that Adam will actually help enable. There's other things that are actually going live, such as the ability to create different things, certain endpoints, tons of just different details. So this is actually for developers. We also have two main projects that we're working on. By the way, this is actually a similar interface as to what we saw within the Hawaiian Kingdom. This is actually for NEHOM, or NAOM, which is one of the latest organizations and cultures that we look to work with. There's 7 different cities that are being built. One of them is what's called the Line. And identity management, business management, asset management, and land management is all we're focused on with them right now. But, and I shouldn't say with them right now, we're in the business development and sales process to basically go through that. There's a lot of details with NEHOM Life and some of the apps like what you see here, as well as the ability to interact with other systems, which, yeah, they're somewhat relevant. Another one, and Charles, you may be interested in this one. This, again, we don't have yet, but this is actually in Japan. If you've looked at what's called Weaving, this is actually a city, Woven City, which we have been invited to potentially participate in. There'll be about, if we look at this image right here, there'll be about 2,000 people that will live in this city. And it's specifically a futuristic city with futuristic type systems and operating environments. And so we're basically responding to a request for proposal there, similar to what we were doing with NEHOM, but these guys are much further along. I believe that this Japanese environment will actually...
What part of Japan is this?
It's right by the big mountain. So you can
What part of Japan?
I don't even know. Here, I'll show you
By
some.
Fuji. Okay.
Yeah, you see this mountain right here? Yeah, Mount Fuji. Yep, that's right. And this is actually built. This is not a
Well, that would be
rendering.
the...
Yeah, these are full on built. Like this is up. This is not a rendering. These are going live. Humans aren't living in them just yet, and we don't have this opportunity just yet, but there is dialogue between one of the Clear companies and this, and it's not Toyota directly, but Toyota's doing a lot of it. And it's really around a futuristic city that they're building with intentions of, well, being intentional. So, yeah. Other things that are going on, we've talked a little bit about this, but there's still some active activity there. It's not completed yet. And that's basically it. So other thoughts or comments or feedback? Going once, going twice. Well, we will plan on seeing everybody next week, hopefully Tuesday, and we will talk to you then. Thank you for taking the time, especially those that this was their first time. And I'd like to, again, just thank Adam for his willingness to participate and just be a part of this. I know some of it may sound foreign and a lot of this is a new structure, but thank you for being here and for living a life that has enabled you to be able to serve in the capacity that you have chosen to serve in. So thank you. We'll say goodbye and we'll see everyone next week. Thank you for all you do and for all you stand for. Much love. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Michael.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good.
Mahalo. Aloha.
Bye for now.
Mahalo.
Together we will rise. Ah, together we will rise.
Danielle, you take care of yourself.
Together we will rise.
Much love. We're with you. We're with you.